Yeah, good to go.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. So we just round up today with the remaining loops and functions. Yesterday we stopped at we finished for loop and then we had we're talking about while loop and just quick recap on braces and loops. You know that braces are like shortcuts where we want to like for example make multiple files quickly. So you're like touch file then a dot dot to z. Why is this not moving? Yeah, something like this. Or let me do better. Yes, something like this. So instead of let's say it's touch, and you want to just create these three files, okay, go. So braces are just like shortcuts, and then we have for loop, we have while loop, and then these are the two main ones. But we also have what is called nested loop, when where we have a particular loop that is nested in and around. So for loop, they are fixed. It's like a fixed list, while the while loop is condition based. Right. So okay, so while loop runs while the condition is true. So and then I was talking a lot about how you should be careful when we're using while loops because it will continue to run, it will continue and you end up with an infinite loop that keeps running and you have to either use Ctrl C to bring your terminal back to life. So we have examples here, such as this count. This count where we gave a number that okay, the count number is three. So while the count, which is three, so while three initially is greater than zero, do the command. Don't forget how our conditions work. The way your commands are being run. It makes use of okay. If is it the first line is the condition, and then you now have the command if that condition is a true or a success or if it's zero when you're calling it in terms of exit status. So yes, so now while three is greater than zero, do of course three is greater than zero. So it will run the command. So it will echo count, then give you the number three. Don't forget, use the dollar sign when you're calling your variable. And then now we now added something when we want to perform arithmetic functions. Let is one of the command that you use. So let count equals to the variable count, which is which should then be have one subtracted to it. So don't forget what happened when we showed the terminal that if you repeat a variable name, it gets overwritten. Like when I was like name equals Maranel and I said echo name, it gave me Maranel. But when I said name equals instead of it, so when I called name again, it gave me the latest value for my variable. So now what basically happens, okay, let's run it first so we can see it happen. So let's see. So right, we say nano countdown. So let's switch, right? And then we do this one. Is that for me? This for me, you can speak up.
Yeah, so Marina, I'm not sure whether you can increase the size of your text. I mean, we cannot see your terminal for you.
Okay.
You can just press probably Control plus on your computer. I mean, on your terminal.
Is this better?
Yes, probably you can increase it a little bit.
This should be
Is
better.
that one? Okay? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So count by creating a variable. Don't forget no spaces. Count equals three. And then we go and be like, if no, okay, we're using while. While while the account is greater than 0. It's greater than 0. Do echo count. We call on the variable count. Okay. The other condition, okay, we're subtracting by 1. Okay, so let's count. Now don't forget what happens when you repeat a variable name. It's the next thing that will be, it overwrites what was inside the formal, it overwrites the formal value of the variable, and then we say -1, and then we say done. Okay, so let's run this and then I'll show you what, or explain what happens. Which mode it should change with count. Okay. So when we run it, countdown. I forgot to. Bash is very sensitive. I forgot to put this. Okay, so we now have count 3, 2, 1. So basically, what happened was that, like I said, while loop keeps running until the condition is no longer true. That is, until the condition changes to false. It will not be. It won't stop running. And so if we look at the command, right, we originally said count is 3. So what happens here is like, okay, so 3 is greater than 0, of course. So now do count, then help me bring what's the value for count, the count variable. So count 3. Then you're now going to be like, let's count. Now, we're using the same variable name. So that will overwrite the former value. And I'm not saying let's my the original value for count be subtracted. Okay, 1 should be subtracted from it. So that means at this point, count is now 2. Okay, done. And now while we'll come back again and be like, so now when it's coming the second time, count is no longer 3, count is 2. So what happens is that while so far your variable is greater than 0, it will keep running. So we have 2, and then it echoes count is 2, because now count is 2. Then it subtracts it, now count is 1. Of course, 1 is still greater than 0, so that's why it then echoes count is 1. So let's count be equal to count, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. No, 0 is not than 0. 0 is equal to 0. So that means here is false. So what happens when it's false? The command doesn't run. So that we have the 3, 2, 1. Let me see if there's another example that's would. Okay. And then we use this one to another way to, instead of using let. Okay. And so in this case, we want count to be less than 5. I'll just use the same script. So while count is less than 5, echo count is this, and then you have count plus plus. So let's one guy. So we have. I'll just adjust this. So count is 1, and so 1 while count is less than. Was it less than or less than or equal to? I think so. Less than or equal to. That was 5. Okay. Echo count is count, and then we do count. So count. So let's run it. Okay, so count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what happened in case, okay, is originally our count is one, and then it goes and be like, while one is less than or equal to 5, echo that count is the value. And so what count plus plus does is that it's a instead of you writing let count be equal to plus count plus one, just using plus plus would add um will add one. So this is just the same as saying count plus one. So then it keeps running. Of course, one plus one is two. So our count will be equal to two. So while two is less than or equal to 5, count is two. So that's what happens until uh, I get to the condition. Okay, let's say we now get to 5. So is 5 is not less than, but 5 is equal to, and then when you have less or equal to, it's the equal to it's, I mean, 5 is equal to 5, so it still fulfills it. But if I had used this instead, if I use the LT, I'm sure you don't get that. That count is 5 will not appear because 5 is not less than 5. But because I said L is less or equal to, so that's why 5 came on. And if you do, so this run count is 5. And then when you do count plus plus, it's 6. But 6 is not less than and it's not equal to 5. So it didn't run again. It just stopped at that point. So that's just what happens there. Right? And we have time for another example. Okay, let me go to loop. Then I'll know it. So for loop nesting. So nesting means putting one structure into another, basically. So you can nest a 4 inside a 4 and a 4 inside while, and you can loop inside an if and vice versa. I think we used that when we were doing conditionals, where we had two ifs. Let me see if I can see that. Yes. Yeah. So we used, this was a nested one. So you can have any of them inside, depending on the condition that you want to bring to life. So avoid going more than 2 to 3 levels deep to keep your code readable, because if you just keep nesting and nesting and nesting and nesting, if somebody wants to reuse your code, the person is already saying, you know, it looks very scattered. So I think even if you want to do such a thing, it's better you even decide to now put it in a function, which we will see I think next. So I guess there's um no other example for that. It should be. So let's just go with. So for norm in 1 to 2, don't forget what this means. So this is if this was 3, or if this, yeah, if this was 3, this would be for norm in 1 to 3. Do, and then you're now saying for CH in AB, do echo norm minus CH. And then you go and be like done. And then done. Of course, for each four we have it do and it's done. So that's why this 4 do done together. Then this is the nested one. The 4 do and done before you come out of the nest. So I have an example for a nested loop. Okay, let's just do one quick one. So nano nested switch and do, so yes. So let's see for this is 4. Let's do a 4 inside a 4. So for I, that's for an item in 1, 2. Okay, 2 and 4. Now making another for loop for J in A, B. Now indentation is important. So if I put my do here, if I put this do here, it won't run unless here I use the semicolon. And then sometimes you see me leave it like this. And if I don't want to leave it like this, I remove the semicolon. And then if it's then it has to be with the right indentation for the specific for loop. Like in this case, the for and the do, you know that they are together. So for the inner loop, it has to be aligned as well. So do I did a double indentation because if I had done a first one, it would be for this command. So I have to do a double indentation. And then I go and do like echo. Where do I go? Okay, let's try echo I dollar J. I'm not confused myself. Okay, double done, then done. Okay. So for I in 1, 2, do for J in AB. So all this, I may not use I may not use J. I may say for num. All I'm just saying, using this to identify is that for each item in the next bracket or in the next group, this group of items, I want you to do something, and then like that. So that means for each I that you have here, that is, for example, now we take 1, and I'll be like, do for J in AB. That means you want it to be like 1A, and then you have 1B, okay? Because it will be like you have for I 1, you take 1 first because that's the first item, and then it goes to do what is nested inside. And the next thing say for J in AB, do echo $I and dollar $J. So what is, you pick the first item here, and then you pick the first in this case. That's the first instance. The next time it's running, is you still pick the first, okay? Because this one has not, the nested loop has not finished running. So that's why we have, let's say we have a 1A. Next thing we have is a 1B, okay? Before it now goes back to the global or the bigger loop. And then it now goes and be like, it picks the next item, 2. So 2A. And then that 2 will be iterated again to be because of we're doing $I and $J. But let me quickly show that plus X minus X. Okay, let me clear. And then we run nested. So I hope we get what just happened here in this nested loop. And which other example can I use? But I think we get the idea. Okay, you can speak.
Okay, so my own question is just about, that Shiban line that you usually put in your, that no script.
Okay.
Yeah, so because some people might actually wants to copy your style verbatim, but it's going to differ. The location for that bash can differ based on the kind of like terminal that you are using. So in my own case, the bash uh, uh, interpreter, so it's not located in that part. It's just root, bin, and then you have bash. So in case you actually wants to run it, so how you will determine what to put in that shape and line. So it should be, so I'm not sure, probably you can go back to your terminal. So you first have to like probably write which bash, which you can just probably write which bash.
Yeah, to show you where it's installed.
Yes. So I think you probably will have like two. So this is
Yes.
actually
I
the one I think you have like two.
yes. If I remove user it runs. If I use user it runs. I have to actually. And then if I'm
So
in an environment, I have to use env as well. So
okay.
I I just decided to use this one.
Yeah,
So,
so
but
I'm
I
just
guess
probably
for anybody
okay.
else that,
Yes, so that by the time you are writing your own script, you are not just following probably Mironel style. So you have to first probably locate, I mean, run this particular command, which bash. So whatever you now get is what you should put in that your shebang line. I mean, the very first line. So I mean, so that is just what I wanted to point
yeah,
out.
the go-to one is this one, this first one. But it depends on if I'm on another person's and
Yeah, so this is the one I have on my own
my
terminal.
system. Yes, I can use this and it will still run.
Yeah. It still work exactly.
Yes, it's somebody.
So like just like I did mention, like it's actually like kind of a good practice to always have your shebang that's line before writing the scripts. But then like what I'm about to say now is like it's not good practice per se. But then like in some instances, especially when you want to run that script without following the format of changing the that's using the chmod command to change it to being executable. So you can also use like in any scenario where you're using just bash to run that script, just bash then the name of the script.
Yeah.
Then that doesn't depend on the shebang line that you have.
Yes.
Let's say for example now she goes back to edit that script
Okay.
and then removes the shebang and then runs the script with just bash, it's still going to run. Yeah, just to take note of that. But then, like generally, for good practice,
Yeah. Because
it's
I'm calling on Bash. The
yeah,
shebang
yes. So like in this case
brings
now, like we know the interpreter, so that's why we're using Bash. That's to run the script. But then, like if you don't want to run that script by calling on the interpreter, then you have to um indicate that shebang, which directly tells us showcases that okay, the interpreter you're using is Bash to run the script.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure whether you can we can try running that dot forward slash nested. So it's not going to run in that
yeah,
case.
it won't.
Oh, unless yeah.
It won't because okay.
Well, it's still
I
on.
think I put my bash was assigned to part. I think I edited my part. So it's kind
Oh,
of
yeah,
yeah.
yes. Okay, okay,
I edited
I
my part
think
so it's universal. So whether I call it, but it's just good practice
okay.
to do so. Okay. Thank you. Um so I was thinking of an example. Another nested loop. So let's try something like I don't feel like I have a sample through the SH. Don't mind this naming structure. Okay. Let me show that Beam Bash works. Beam Bash. Oh, said by Beam Bash. And then let's say I have samples. But and you have samples here, something. I will need actual samples. Doesn't matter. I can just use it to explain. So 802 6 10 piano 8 2 9 7. Okay, and I now use a for loop. I go and be like for S short for sample in I'm calling on an array. Don't forget when you difference between calling an array and calling an ordinary variable that has just one item inside. So samples. Okay. So at Then until you do this, practice this thing continuously. Okay, for to do um mhm, prepare in one to do double indent echo processing. Processing S, so I'll call on the particular item that has been picked here. This might actually be an advanced example, but this is how it might actually work in this script pair. Then first Q the keys here. And then I do it on
I think you wanted to write dot G said. You wrote dot Q said.
Q. Not like it's way more. So for done, okay. Have I put it two done? So so for value in my sample basket, you move to the next line. So for each of the values, you pair it one and two, like for pair one, two. So for each value here, it goes to the next this next nested loop. Okay, and then there's another loop waiting for it that says for pair in one, two. So well, basically is what I want it, how I want it to come out. And I say echo processing the value, particular value, that sample that it has picked. Then with the pair, because usually sometimes you have, yes, FASTQ files come in fast reverse and forward reads. So we call it pair embed reads as one and two. Play this way. Okay. So if you take the sample name and then add a number to it and then dot FASTQs in. So let's run that. So thanks so much. So remember in my sample basket I had just this alone, and then this alone. I hope you get what's happening. Um, so it took this one and then echoed this item, then put an underscore in between, and then give me another value that is a pair. So that it just take this and then add one to it. Then dot pass q dot z. But it's not actual file, not be compressed. But I hope we get the idea of nested loops. So for VMAX, you can need to function. Yes, so this is just combining what I said here. Loop inside if. You know, if is if, else, elif, they are conditions. So this combining loop with logic. So for I in 1 to 10, do if I is less than 3. Don't forget what this symbolizes. This is the or, which means that the second only runs if the first fails. Okay, so let's pick a number. So if we have 5, okay, so 5, it will now be like, okay, so 5 is going on a question. It's like, is 5 less than 3? So 5 is not less than 3, that which means we get a false answer. So because the first command is false, like it's not true, That is why this one will run. But if I give a number that is actually less than 3, so if I use 1 in this case, and I'm like, it's 1 less than 3. So the only thing that will happen here, it will just echo my number. It's just, it will skip, it won't go ahead to do, is it less than. Once this is correct, it jumps to the next and says echo. Let's just look at this and like my script. I don't know step. Um, so if I run this nested, so I get 1, 2, 9, 10. So let's explain how that works quickly. Now nested. So it picked 1, and then one is less than 3, so it passed, and then it went ahead to echo 1. We have 2. 2 is less than 3. So of course this is true. It just goes straight to the next one. And then we have 2 printed out. Okay. We now have 3. Now 3 is not less than 3. So this is false. So this, it now goes to this next command, and it's like, is 3 greater than 8? Of course, it's still also false again. So it's going to end here because none of this is true. And don't forget that the way bash programming works, it does it sequentially. So the next command only works when the former one, except you have an exit and it's nested, when the former one runs. So when the exit status is true or 0, the next command will run. So in case of 3, it was 4. 3 is not less than 3, and 3 is not greater than 3. That's why we didn't print. So we have 4 happening to the same thing, 5, 6. 7 is not less than, and 7 is not greater than. So we now have 8. 8 is not less than, and 8 is not greater than. But we now move to 9. Now 9 is not less than, so that's why we move to this next command. Okay, and when we move to this next command, 9 is actually greater than 8, so 9 should be printed. So echo 9. So we have 9, and then we have 10. So if we have something like and now, I'll just run it. Run correct. Yes. Okay, so we run it again. It doesn't work. Don't forget what happens when you have the and. So like for I, the second command only runs if the first is true. Okay, so we now have 1. 1 is less than, but at the same time, it does not fulfill this next line. So whatever it's more like saying these 2 conditions must be met for this to be achieved. Because even for the ones that pass here, remember, it's passing here means it's going to the next pipeline. The second command only works if the first is successful. So it goes to the next place. For the 1 and the 2 and for the 1 and 2, because they pass here, but when it gets here, they become false. So this from the then down doesn't execute. So that's why we don't have any, it doesn't run. So none of them fulfill that criteria. Usually you don't see something like this. Right? I think that's for the, I think that should be all. So you can filter loop output with if, dynamically control iteration, and even build flexible scripts. So you can try mixing for, while, and if based on whatever it is you want to try. So you can break a leg while trying that. So the next is functions. Okay, so a function is a named block of code that can be reused. It's defined using the function keyword, or just the function name, and then we use the curly brackets. So it's like saying, like it's a kind of recipe where you only need to define the steps once, and then you'll be able to reuse that recipe. Just imagine you will be able to create one nice dish, and then you now write the recipe down. Initially, you had to write it out, like you had to think and do the writing. But whenever you need it again, either you snap it or save it on your phone. You can just look up on your phone, or there's no need for you to rewrite it anymore. So, and that's what function is good for. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's good. Anyway, so functions behave like commands, um, and reduce repetition. English. Reduce repetition in your scripts. So remember when we were saying something about if you have best practices to have your nested loop not to be more than 2 to 3. You can actually use a function, and then the only thing you have to do is the function name, and then you just call it. So let's show an example so you know. Um, so we have a function called greet. It echoes hello, and then whatever you put in front of the function. So let's create the function greet. Um, seriously, should have done scripting separately. Well, so non let's say function message. Okay. And then I use okay, we wanted to greet function. We call it the first time. Greet. So the function name and then the curly brackets. That's this. So that's the open brackets. That's the I don't even know how but the face the one facing to your right. So at the first end, and then you have your what you want it to do. So you want to echo $1. Okay. And we now close it. So first, four, six. So if I call, I'm calling something inside. No, it won't come out. I'm calling something inside a. Let me see if I can put it on the terminal instead. Okay, right. So let me. I'll now to if you want to use function, you have to call the function name. So I greet, and then what you want it to do or what you want it to evaluate. So let's say in the examples here we're greeting people. So when I say greet, oh, hello, because I want something that would print out. Okay. Oh, hello. So I can now go ahead and be greeting people. So greet, hello. Okay. So you can use it to store. Maybe you have a function that can do any of the operations that you need to do. Maybe you want it to which use case can I use now? Maybe you can use it to sum numbers. You can have a function that is called sum. You can have a function that can check if a file exists. So maybe you just have a stash where you put your functions. And if you're writing a long script, you could define all your functions in the beginning of your script. And then maybe at one point you want to check if the file exists. Let me see if I let me do that. Let me do check if a function that tells me if a file exists. Don't forget best practices. So use your shebang, except if you have it put in your part. But for someone else, it's always good practice to use your shebang. So if I want to check, let's say we call the function. Now you don't always have to say function then your function name. Like use caps. You don't always have to use function and then the name of the function. You can actually just call the function itself. Okay. And be like let's call this one check files. Check file. Okay. And then my curly brackets. Okay, let's try a condition. Since we're trying to check a file, so we'll use the condition. So if whether I use one brace or two brace. Sorry, if $1. So let's say the input is if you're going to put a file into this, and then $1 represents the argument as the file name, example, and then it be like then double indent echo $1 exists, else double indent echo $1 does not exist. Does not exist. Does not exist. Shout at the person. Okay, and then we close the if with 5. Don't forget, since you are defining a function or defining, you have to close it with a curly bracket. So now if I do control correct, let me copy. Let me just okay. Clear. I don't want to do this inside the file. Let's have a choice. Okay, so let's say files check. Okay, let's create an array that would have so it's let's call it this $1 will accept whatever it is I put as an argument when I run the script. I hope you haven't forgotten how. I'm just looking for a simple example. So if I run functions and I say I want to check for data.txt, okay. What did I do?
I think there's probably an error in the script. First line, second line. What's the error again? Can I see the error?
The else, the two else. Maybe there's a one of the.
Yeah.
I want to check maybe one of my quotation.
Mm.
Mm.
Is that semicolon or colon?
Oh, yes, yes. That should be. Um, um, so control X. Right. And if one does not exist, it's supposed to. Let me just do it like this. I'm supposed to get it does not exist.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't run. I'm actually skeptical about running. So what is going to happen here is if you take $1,
Then does it mean we have to? We need to have. I don't know. Maybe to change the $1 to $files check. I don't know if that should go. But then without the
oh,
variable you specified, I think it should also
it's
work.
wrong. Let's let's try again. Julian,
Ah,
let's
what's the
let's
exit status?
Iran. Oh, Nano. Of course, Nano ran. This is what we want to check. This ran as well. But I'm thinking it's not picking. I have to call the variable name. Let me call
I guess so.
file equals to $1. And then as I put my input into a variable, I have to call file and then file line. This should work. Yeah. So if file exists, then echo file exists. Else echo it does not exist. Let me try something that actually exists. Let's see. Hmm. It still doesn't run.
The same thing. What are we missing in the scripts?
But let me see what if I run the script
So instead of that minus F, can you use minus E?
Okay.
But
But it doesn't what's the difference between the two steps?
I don't think the
Can you go back to the scripts again? Let me. Um, uh, if file Was it my that was minus f before, right?
Yes.
But wait, should you be calling the name of the script or the name of the function, that check file?
Yeah, I want to
Yes.
call. It's just that I'm looking at how I want to use the how we use it. Especially if I make everything. I was thinking I could get the input from outside.
But wait, oh, can you go back to your terminal?
Okay.
Ah, oh, see what we made. Thank God K in there pointed it out. So the mistake we made was that we are supposed to call check a file with the name of the function we made. Is that right?
Okay, so that's
Yeah, I think the name you used was check file. So check file beta.sh, check file data.txt. You
but
can
the but
imagine.
the but the but the function was created inside functions.sh.
Uh,
So if I call check file, okay, this is what I called it. Check function and check file. Yeah, let's say I put it into
No, I
okay,
think
let's
that's supposed to call check file. So that is what, so you are supposed to be calling check file, then probably the name of the check
mm,
file should be the
yeah.
one that comes first, based on what you showed us initially. No, you don't need that dot function dot sh, I think.
So how will you access it in the script? The last one I did, I made the function on the terminal.
But you should be able to, let's try this first.
Okay, that's the it's not even reading because look at this. Um, okay. Let me just okay,
Mm.
let me just give let me walk back and be like data.txt and let's say .sh. But now, for this, I have to use a for loop. So if file is present, looking at how I will call it to because I wanted to access my files in my terminal without doing directory. Mm, okay.
Or maybe wait, can you have the whole I think it should still be the same thing, like having the naming the variable within the function.
Yeah, I did it, Jenna.
Okay, you did it. Okay.
Let me think. Oh, I can come back to this. So this thing was wrong. So I'm thinking of using, if just like how if you want to get your files, I don't even have to exit. Like when you have a script that check if the file is in your terminal, and then it will now pick it up. That's what I wanted to do.
So I think we have to source. I was just asking ChatGPT. Have you sourced it? So there is a command called source.
Yeah, yeah. I remember.
So I just asked ChatGPT and he said we have to source it
You
first.
have to source the script. Yes, like type a function source, then the name of that script.
Sourced.
Um,
Then
Yeah,
so you don't you are not calling it that way. So after sourcing, so you now call the name of that function that he wants to use. I mean the name
yeah.
of that function that you've written inside your yeah.
hmm. He said it does. It does not exist. Every how does it?
At least it's wrong. So that means probably there's something wrong with the logic. But now
Yeah.
we know that it's wrong, so we just have to like probably fix. So if your file exists,
Minus F.
then echo file exists. Yep. So
Yeah.
probably it
So
doesn't exist. So
source
let's look at your file very well. Probably so there's so this one is birthday. So can you ls
Yes, it's there.
birthday dot sh.
can you source it again?
But do I have to source every time?
So
Let's
can you
try.
use east? I want to check. So can you use probably east, all those ones, the ones that are not colored?
Okay. Mm,
I remove the space too, like the space after the variables. I don't know. Before you click enter. Ah,
let me use his.
So there's something wrong with the logic there. Check file if this exists.
Okay. I think I'm supposed to. Cute. Okay. Let's say check now. Check file. Well, let's say I don't want to use. If this does not work, I will go. Okay. So I think this should be fine. Check file. Then Control X Y. Then maybe is it because I'm using functions and paste. What did I do? Paste exists. This works. Let's try the birthday hash. Birthday. Can you still hear me? So this one works. Let's now see the difference between. Oh, already edited. Can you?
Yes,
Hey, can you
yes,
guys still hear
we
me?
are with you, man.
Okay. So I was thinking I have to call the function because here all I did here was I just defined it. So I have to call it and then run it. So this is the definition of the function, and when I want to use it, I have to call it out for it to run. And then it was like if it exists, what I impute here. Okay, if it exists, I say it exists. If it does not exist, it prints out that it does not exist. Let's put something that doesn't exist. File I know I don't have. That will be the last check. So it does not exist. Abib and Tochuko.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I understand what you are doing.
So I have to call it, but I'm thinking it would have worked if we figured out how to use that source. Because I remember source can like activate those the function what you have inside your script, and then you can now run it normally. But for now, I think you define the function, then you call it out so that whatever it is that you put in front of it gets the arguments you put in front of the script name gets taken. So this is actually what we ran. This is just what we ran here. This is just the definition. This doesn't really run. Okay, it doesn't really run. It runs, but this is just the definition for what this function, this command would do. That it is to go through this logic. So
Okay. So, but then okay. So
thinking,
can we try sourcing again and then I just want to confirm something that's using the check file again.
okay. So those
Hmm.
function does not exist. Okay. Ah, how would I source for it now when it keeps running? I think it's source another way to say bash or run because it's running the. So I don't know what you said I should check. This is what you wanted me to check.
Yeah, but it's not spilling out something else which I don't understand.
If I put birthday, you should tell me that it exists. So I think using source is like another way of you saying bash or saying this. Or maybe it's the way I defined my script.
Okay.
Something we can check
Okay, so
later.
can you try check file one more time? The
Okay.
function.
Okay, so check, check file. Oh, the fact that it's completed by itself. The check file birthday
Ah, yes, it works.
works. So source
Okay. Like what I was trying to see if it works is because like I know that normally like if you create multiple functions within a script and then source it, you can always call
directly
like
call it.
yes in the individual functions within that script to maybe do one or two things.
Hmm. Probably the way we defined the first time in the script. That's why it didn't work. So this thank God we overcome that one. So function, argument, and source. The function accepts arguments like scripts too. We've already shown how that works. $1, $2, and every argument. So for example, if you have a loop and then you are now like iterate it, you want to iterate all the arguments that you put, and then you use $at. For example, if I say check file $at, and then what I have in my function is a loop that checks for each of the items, for each of the arguments. It would check if either of them is any of them. So what I'll now have is, for example, data.txt does not exist, and yeah, if I put data.txt birthday.sh and his 26, because if that loop runs, I would get data.txt does not exist, his 26.txt exists, birthday.sh exists. So I'm just trying to, you can test that out, how it will work. And then this is what we're saying about source to load the function without executing it immediately. The function here is nice to meet you. So you just echo nice to meet you, whoever, whatever name you supply. So how you would call this would be n nice to meet you ntmy, then the argument, which will be Maranel. So nice to meet you. And then you can make the function available in your shell. This is for the sourcing. So if you do source of this, then you are able to, just like what we tried just now, we're able to call out. So we have, if we do ntmy Jeff, all we'll get is nice to meet you, Jeff. And then we'll get nice to meet you, Jenny. So you can write reusable logic with loops, can sum numbers, you can create a function that adds numbers together. So you have your original array and sum equals 0. And then wow. And sum equals 0. So for each element in all the arguments, any argument you put, do let sum equals to sum plus element, and then you have done. Let's try this. I don't want to be creating um, script, but let's try this. Let's try this before. I didn't even take note of my battery. So now this is the scapegoat function. So let's paste that. Paste. How many times did you paste? Paste it once. I don't need this. Okay, so add sec and then echo some. And then don't forget your closing. Right. So once you try to summon this function, add sec. So let's save it. And now we source. What do I call the name? Okay, add sec. Just add sec. Okay, add sec. You source the script. I'm gonna use a different name. Okay, first time. And then since I've sourced the script, I can now be like add sec 2, 3, 4, 7. Let's do 2, 3, 4, 7. And then we get 52. So despite the fact that there are two different functions in my script, this is just to buttress on what we just saw. Despite the fact that I had two functions, I only called out this access, just like Tuchuk was saying. So if you have a lot of functions in your script, you can actually use source to make a particular or two or more functions available. But you have to first of all source your script. That's why I sourced function.sh. Yeah, and then I had to Um, I now used after it has been sourced. That means my functions are accessible. I now used add. I now called out my function add sec and added a couple numbers. A couple numbers. So yeah, and we do this before. Yeah. So, mm, mm. So local variables. Problem with globals. So add sec 345 equals sum. It changed the shell to global sum. But if we use local for safe scooping, oh, okay. Let me first of all Control C and then run it in the terminal. If I run this in the terminal, I'll get 12. But when I let me do um, add sec, yes, this um, add sec 345, I got 12. So this is in the shell. And then locally, my battery is saying that all skills. Uh, nano, nano function. So, uh, so function add sec 2. Okay. So local sum equals 0 or element in whatever it is that I give to add sec 2. Let the element sum equals to the original sum plus element. That is, and then echo sum. I have to source this again.
I don't think you put the last curly bracket there.
Yeah, that's why it gave me an error. Thank you. Yeah. So if I source it again, and then I now call um, um, so if I call sum equals 999 and I say add sec 345. Okay, this is my battery. Let's see if I echo, is there anything like sum? Echo sum. The sum is 12 from this guy here. When I did add sec 345, right? And if I rewrite sum to be 999, okay, and I now say echo sum is 999. So what happened here is that sum, because I rewrote it, despite the fact that from AdSec the sum originally was 12, and now when I added a different value into it, it got overwritten. 12 got overwritten, and then I get a sum. So and when if you use my sum equals dollar AdSec 23345, and I echo my sum, this battery is really disturbing me. Right. Let's see, my sum equals dollar. This would work in a terminal because of it has been sourced 345. If I say echo echo dollar, my sum, I get 12. At section 12. Sum equals 999. Okay. Echo sum 999. But at sec 2 is 12. Echo sum 999. So what happened here? I was trying to explain the local and the global thing. I forgot to use. I forgot that the second at sec had a 2 in front of it. Tochuko, I don't know when this would turn off, but I know it just remains one material. I'll just try to run it. So originally I said sum equals 999, and I echoed sum, and then for the shell it took sum to be 99. Okay, and then here where I added, don't forget, at the end result of adsec is the summation of 3 4 5, that's 12. So what happens in this case is that from running adsec, what the shell knows to be sum was 12, but I rewrote it with this and got 999. So when I echoed sum, because what was written to the shell is 12, and then this now got this, I now changed the variable, the value of the variable, same variable name, and I got 999. So what happens here is that I said sum in this case is 12 again, so the shell 12, sum is 12. Then I tried rewriting it and then got my sum to be 999. But when I ran add sec 2 3 4 5, now what happened was, because so what happened in this case is that so now my sum in the shell is 12. So when I echo sum, I'm saying assuming it was what was happening before. When I echo sum the next time, I'm supposed to get 12, not 999. Let me see if I can quickly know that might be very confusing. So when I use add sec 3 4 5, remember we have two add sec, and I echoed sum. The global sum, the sum that the shell had was 12. And if I had done sum equals 999, the shell will have its sum to be 999. But if I run add sec 3 4 5, it will be 12. So if I now echo sum, it will be 12. So it's overwriting what is the global sum in the shell. But when you put it locally, okay, so what that means is that it doesn't affect the if the it doesn't affect or assign or change the value of the variable in the shell. When you call that function, what you want to use it for. I don't know if that makes sense. That was why, yes, sum equals to 999. But when I did add sec 3 4 5, I got 12, all right. But when I echoed sum, instead of getting 12, I got 999. So you can check it if you use the same functions I use. If you do sum equals to 999 and you use this and you echo sum, you will see 12. But if you use sum 999 and use add sec 2 3 4 5, yes, the function will run. But when you echo sum in the shell, it's to still give you what the variable's name in the shell. And then it's command substitution, where you put it into you can put your function into this, you call it just like what we did with word count the other time. So will this allow me to do the last slide? So function return values. So in bash, functions can return values in two main ways, using echo and using return. Okay, and so the recommended way is using echo, to return actual data like maybe a string or a number or an array. So you use this for results you want to store, print, or pass into another command. So remember our greet function, okay? And that's it up here.
I think our system is down. Hello, can anyone hear me or it's from my end?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. No, you joined again. Like, is your, I guess your
Yeah,
system is
my
dead.
system is down. So I'm thinking if I can just run the last slide with my phone.
Okay. Okay.
So we just finish that.
We've stressed you today.
What do you say?
I said we've stressed you today from like the kind last minute stuff, like joining despite your schedule.
Yeah, well, I think it's just the last slide. All that left is just best practices that they should try to keep when they're running. So I'm trying to locate the material. So just give me one. Okay. Right now, I won't be able to use my share screen. Mm.
Marina, like, are you still sharing?
Yeah, I stopped. I wanted to this phone. Let's locate. I don't know why it was stopping the file from opening. Okay, I've opened it. Let me just share it again. You can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, and you can see the slides. Okay, this way, yeah. Okay, so the recommended way, yes. So we see our greet function that was telling us hello John, hello Jenny, hello anyone. So we now have another variable. Don't forget command substitution in the sense that you're trying to run a command and then the response or the result you get from that command being run is passed into a variable. We tried it with word count and then now we tried it with okay, we didn't actually try it, but I explained how you add sec in the previous slide. You can actually put add sec and then pass the answers and pass the result into a variable. So what would have happened if we just use greet Marion? We'll just say hello Marion. But now we have another variable and we're using command substitution. And then because you see the way this same syntax, don't forget your dollar, you put it in circly brackets, normal brackets. So you then echo the variable. So the output would be hello Marion. This looks the same, but there are cases where you want to pass in a result into another function. For example, let's say you have trimmed your reads, like your sequencing reads, remove the adapters and maybe any contamination, whatever. So maybe your first function was to run Trimomatic. Is a type of is a type of tool that is used to trim reads. And so the next function is to now, when you pass it into another function, where the next thing is for it to run QC. So it takes the trimmed output from your Trigonometric tool that you used to run on a sample, and then it takes the trim sample and then it runs the QC analysis for that. So the second way that your function can return values is um using return. Here we use echo, which is the normal one, and we have been using it a lot. So the return statement gives a function's exit status, not data. Okay. So we have a function here, this function. So the return is limited to numbers between 0 to 2555. It's not meant for data values like string or long integers. So this function is to check if a number is even. I think we've seen it before in one of those. But now it's a function. So in this case, instead of us running a script, we can just call is it even to a number instead of having to write a script that will check if something is. Since you already written it once, like your recipe, you just look at it or call it to be used again. So you can remember how that works. You can check back. So what happens in this case is that the only addition here is that, so if your input is divided by 2 and has a remainder that is equal to 0, because that means it is equal, right? So then return 0, which means it's successful. Okay, so if the first condition is true, remember you move to the next one, and that's why we just say return 0. So that's why it's a success. Else means that um it was not true. I mean, just like if this condition doesn't go, you go to the next one. So else you return one that it's failed. So that means that, for example, if we have 53 as our input, 53 is not 53 divided by 2 will have a remainder of 1. So 1 is not equal to 0. So because 1 is not equal to 0, now this first return 0 will not run. It is because it didn't fulfill the criteria. So it's the else, it goes to the else. Now, so else is like whatever is next, or whatever is not what you asked it. So that's how it runs. So that's when it will return like an exit status of 1. Like that's a failure. So if you run is it even 4, and then when you echo the exit status, you have 0 to show you that. So when you see ash, it's just my way of saying what the output would be like. You don't put that in your script. So when you do echo dollar question mark, it will give you 0 because 4 is an even number. And then if you do it for 5 and you do exit status, it's odd. You get, because you get 1 or a number. Okay, you get 1 because I specifically said return 1, and to show you that it's odd. So that's for that. But then just best practices generally when you're doing bash programming. It's always good to quote your variables to prevent word splitting and globbing issues. If you run, just like when we run echo dollar name, it will give you name, like it will give you the name. But there are situations where you you may have it picking maybe just one item in maybe what you're trying to call, or modeling it together. So it's always good to always put quotes when you're trying to um call your when you're trying to call distraction. So and then use clear, consistent naming, make function names descriptive. So when you're using if you are creating a function, I mean, if something that you know that it adds something together, and you're not like math. Okay, math is even say a bit. Yes, and you call the function maths. I mean, addition is not the only thing that is in math. So calling the function maths, and then the only thing that you define in the function is an addition, is kind of is off-putting. So you use whatever your shebang is, whether you use bin bash or you use bin bash env, and so you just use which bash to know where your bash is installed. Me, I have it in the three places. Anyway, so at the top of your script, because that could be one of the reasons why your script may not run. So use comments generously. Especially when you have a function, you can put your comments in the function to describe what that function does. In case someone else wants to pick up your code or your scripts and it's like, it's just saying, you know, numbers and letters. So yes, it's good that your code is readable. Use command substitution to capture output instead of relying on global side effects. Okay, put it there, results, command substitution. So the function is what was, so the function will run with the argument, and then whatever we get will be put into results. So are we, you are to avoid, I mean, infinite loops. So in what case scenario we have infinite loops? That's when you're using a while. Okay, so ensure, the answer is even in front of it. Ensure while loops have an exit condition, and always double check. And if you find yourself in a scenario that you somehow forget, or I don't know, anything, use Control C. But you still have to be careful, because depending on what you're running, you could be running something so heavy that could crash your system, and then there is no exit status. Then your system just hangs and switches off. So just because it's small thing that you're saying countdown, that one may not crash your system. If you're running heavy, like with tools, it can crash your system. So use set the E to stop on errors. Yeah, I could have showed this. So this one, what happens is if you have an error. So let's say you have a script that has like that performs three different tasks. So if the first task does not maybe there's an error, maybe that file that you're even trying to use in the first function does not exist. It's not even, it won't go to the next. It's, if you want to use set.is, it just stops running the code entirely. For example, if you have an iteration like a loop. So once you just see that something is wrong, it stop. You can also have the one where you, I mean, this is one of the things for error handling, where you also kind of use, there was an example we used where we had it's telling us things like, oh, this file does not exist, or creating log files. So then define functions with function name. Don't forget your curly brackets. Don't forget to open it, and don't forget to close it at the end. Else you see error. To accept arguments, you are using one, two, or at. If it's more than two, I think it's just best to use at, because I don't know. But I think that's just best. So use source to make your functions available. We've emphasized how we corrected our mistakes here. So use local to avoid polluting global variables, because you could have, we show that actually how where I use the adsec and then the adsec2, and how one affects the global and the other one doesn't affect global. So return values with echo and capture using, of course, that's a substitution, command substitution, where you put it into a variable. Then we have modular scripts for easier maintenance. And practice is key. Practice is really key, because that way it's easier for you to um go through. By the time you practice and practice and practice, even if you make any mistake, once you go through your code one, two times, your head is correct, you should at least know where the problem is, or kind of be able to query your results. So I guess I think I just have two best practices. So there are many activities you can use to practice this second to last page on this. Yes, so yes, so you can start in the first and also try these ones as well. I'm sure that if you're able to do this one, this two, at least you're good to go. So Yeah, this was just this for the one in black boundary. It's just a for the functions I described. So you should try running those numbers, and then what is in ash should be your output. So that's just so yes, thank you very much. That is the end of my podcast. Any questions or addition?
Thumbs up everywhere. Thank you very much, Miranda. So I think Adela has a question. Please, you can go ahead.
It, you can go ahead. I can't see if I kept if I go back.
Okay. Sorry. My question is on using echo to return that slide. Can you please like go back to that slide? Yeah.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
Yes, this one. Please, can you zoom in a bit?
mm, mm, mm. This one.
No, the second, like on this other side. Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Yes, this
cool.
one. I do not understand how Marion, like, cause there's nothing calling Marion there. Sorry, I don't know how to I don't know how to explain it. Okay. Okay.
O-
So
Okay.
the function wrote echo hello $1, and then
Yeah.
there's like greet Marion. So like it's not greet any other person but Marion, because it's not like calling on a variable. I don't know if you get me.
Okay. So the way the function works is it's supposed to it will greet it will say hello to the first argument you put in front of it. So the second, okay, just look at it as two different. The first one, you are defining the function. Okay. Then the next part is where you want to try to use the function. But in this case, you are putting it, you're using command substitution. So if it can't greet anything else. So if I say greet Ramat or greet Adiola as this, and I say echo MSG, it will be hello Adiola. I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting what you asked. I feel like I'm even confusing you more. So
Okay,
the
I was
idea is
thinking.
just what you put inside. The
All
next
right,
thing in front of
just go
greet
ahead,
is the
please.
argument. Your argument, your $1, okay, is the argument you put in front of the function. So this $1 is just generally anywhere you call the function greet, it takes the first argument in front of it and then it uses it to process whatever it is that the function does. Okay, so let's say instead of hello $1, I have hello $1 $2. So if I want to use the function and for us to use comma substitution and I do msg equals dollar open bracket greet Marion with its bracket with its quotes, and then beside it I also put Adiola. So what it will give me, and I told it to echo msg. So I have put two items into msg. So when I tell it to echo msg, it will be hello Marion Adiola. I'm not sure if I'm getting what is the confusion. Do you get, or you need, or you can help me to help you?
I don't actually get, but then I'm not with my system, so maybe I'll try it on my system and then see what it gives
Yeah,
me.
please, can you ask the question again? I'm still trying to like understand it better.
Okay, yes. My question is the MSG equals to dollar greet Marion. Like it's only going to greet Marion, like no matter what you put into like the um like when you like call the variable, I will call the function, like there's nothing else is going to give but Marion. That's like my confusion with it.
Yes, because I mean, I'm not sure. Probably, I'm not sure whether you still remember what I taught you in our, what was it called? Uh, Office hour, like the office meeting, the one we usually have on Wednesday or Thursday. So about this command substitution. So that function, when she created the function, the greet, so it is expecting, so if you actually look at the body of the function, it's saying echo hello dollar. And then now, so by the time you source the probably the script that contains the function, by the time you source it, then probably greet, I mean the name of the function is going to probably behave, is going to behave like a normal command, like probably ls cd org is going to behave like a normal command. Then so this was now saying greet. So the greet million, so that million is $1. And so greet is going to take that million, which is $1, and put it inside, I mean, in front of that echo hello $1. So it's now going to echo hello million. And now you are now storing the output of that and you are putting it in message MSG. You are storing it because you think you want to use it later. So and after that, you are now trying to like access. So that means, I mean, that MSG is like a variable. You know, I told you like there are three ways to create a variable. Number one is, I mean, you specify it yourself. Number two is, I mean, you use this syntax, I mean, the command substitution. Number three is you use read, I mean, the read command. So those are the three ways that you can use to create a variable. So in that MSG variable, so you are using like the second format, which is the command substitution, and then you are storing the output, and the output is going to be hello Marionel because it is Marion. If she put Habib, so what is going to be stored inside that MSG is going to be hello Habib, and then so that's why.
Oh,
So by the time you
okay.
have access, that's actually what is going on here.
Okay, the
So
MSG is not part of the function at all.
no, it's not part of. So the function ended
Super.
after, like, look at the closing bracket and the closing
Um,
curly bracket. So it's supposed to
um,
be different. So it's not part of the function at all because the
okay.
function ended when you put that curly, I mean the closing curly bracket. So that is the end of the function. So the subsequent ones they are just, I mean, the next part
Either
of the,
calling it or using it.
yeah.
Okay. I understand now. Thank you.
Okay. I think somebody else wanted to ask another question. Does anybody else
Okay, so
have?
please, no question.
And I can stop sharing my beautiful screen. Okay.
I guess not.
So try to practice the activities or so many. I mean, if any of them doesn't run, you can always meet um your group handlers.
Yeah.
Uh,
So please, can you also drop the slides on the
yeah,
general
I'll
group
just
chat?
tag it. I
Okay.
already dropped it that first Saturday.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I'll just tag it again.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all for today. So see you guys next week. Thank you very much, Mirano, and everyone that joined.